Ginagawa lang natin, tiyakin lang natin na safe ang ating mga sasakyan. Nag-postpone tayo hanggang December. Sa palagay ko, sapat na panahon yon upang magawa na natin lahat ng kailangan gawin para ayusin ang sistema ng pag-inspeksyon at pagpalit ng ating mga jeepney, ating mga transport workers.
The Finance Department is recommending additional imports of key commodities like rice. Finance Chief Benjamin Diokno said the government should import 3 million metric tons of rice to secure a 30-day buffer. He noted, though, that this should not coincide with the harvest season. Diokno also cited possible supply deficit for corn, sugar, pork, and fish. Meanwhile, Secretary Diokno confirmed the allocation of 9.3 billion pesos for cash transfer program. With this, over 9 million poor households will receive 500 pesos each for 2 months to mitigate the impact of inflation.
Ito ay 500 pesos for 2 months, so that means 1,000 pesos for 9.3 million households. Ibibigay na natin to. Na-identify na namin kung saan kukunin ng pera at siguro in a few days or a few weeks, mabibigay na natin to sa mga na-apekto ng inflation.
The administration of President Bongbong Marcos plans to implement an energy conservation plan amid the rising cost of power in the world market. According to Finance Chief Ben Diokno, the President discussed plans to conserve energy during a meeting with the economic team on Tuesday. This as the government identified energy costs among investors' complaints in the country. Among the proposals to save energy were adjusting work hours and telecommuting on Fridays.
So, isa sa mga proposal ay ito umpisahan ng Department of Energy ay magkakaroon siya ng change ng time ng pagpasok sa opisina. Umpisa niya ng 7, tapos matatapos siya ng 4. So ito yung daylight saving time, no? Sasabayan niya yung sunrise, so mas maaga siya.
The government's outstanding debt once again climbed in the month of January. According to data from the Treasury Bureau, the national government debt rose 2% to nearly 13.7 trillion pesos as of the end of January. This comes after the government trimmed its balance to 13.4 trillion as of the end of 2022. Nearly 69% of the debt stock came from domestic sources, while the rest was sourced externally. The Bureau says the net availment of foreign loans and impact of third currency adjustments contributed to the rise in the country's external obligations. However, peso depreciation reduced the peso value of foreign currency denominated debt by around 94 billion pesos. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Diego Castro. The Tourism Department has further eased COVID-19 restrictions in tourist spots. The agency said face masks and vaccination cards are no longer required in tourism establishments. This comes as support to the government's efforts for the recovery of the economy from the pandemic. The Health Department clarified, though, that the DOT announcement was just a reiteration.
Nire-reiterate lang siguro ng Department of Tourism para mas maka-attract tayo ng mga tourists sa ating area. So, we don't need really, hindi na minamandato, people or us would be choosing kung tayo sa tingin natin kailangan magmask, magmamask tayo. Kung sa tingin natin hindi naman kailangan, pwede tayong hindi magmask.
More firms are now seeking sustainable options. That's according to Holcim Philippines and web-based enterprise platform Anaplan. Holcim initially deployed Anaplan solutions in 2018 to replace the company's old legacy systems, which they found inefficient. The tool monitors and tracks Holcim's decarbonization key performance indicators, such as carbon dioxide emissions. Anaplan said more organizations have been asking them now about how they can reduce their environmental impact. This from the Philippine Star. A New York-based think tank sees the Philippine economy growing by 5.5% in 2023. Global Source Partners upgraded its forecast from its initially 5% projection as China reopens. In its quarterly report, Global Source says though global growth is expected to weaken, China's reopening offers hope of larger rebound, especially in tourism. The think tank's projected expansion for this year is lower than last year's 7.6% GDP growth. The projection is also lower than the target set by the Development Budget Coordination Committee at 6 to 7%. China is overhauling many of its regulatory bodies in the biggest bureaucratic revamp in decades. This is part of a broader push for economic self-sufficiency in the face of U.S. efforts to prevent Beijing from obtaining advanced technology. Stephen Engel reports on Bloomberg.
I know that you've been trying very hard to summarize everything that's coming out from the NPC. But is it fair to say that the main narrative seems to be self-sufficiency that I just mentioned, but also consolidation of power under Xi Jinping, perhaps?
Well, absolutely. And consolidation of discipline by the party around Xi Jinping on the various bodies that he's revamping, with the backdrop being this pressure coming from the United States. You know, really, the gloves are off. It's been a fairly combative National People's Congress, even Xi Jinping directly blasting the United States for what he called the containment efforts. You alluded to the chips, but in AI and in other advanced technologies. So I think China really realizes with this new team of leaders that he's going to be surrounding himself with, that we need better party discipline. We need to face the reality that there is a bifurcation. I'm paraphrasing, but there is a bit of a bifurcation going on, and China needs to be less reliant on others and more self-sufficient in core technologies for the future economy. And that's why he's kind of revamping many of these regulatory bodies. The financial regulator will become a new behemoth, and essentially the CBIRC, which also was consolidated earlier, the insurance regulator and the banking regulator together. Now the CBIRC will no longer exist. It will be under a broader umbrella of financial regulator to contain all those risks. And they will also create a new ministry for data protection. That plays to, of course, a lot of the problems that have erupted over the last few years between China and the United States over data privacy and data security, national security. So that's been really elevated. And the CSRC, the securities regulator, is going to be elevated to just under the State Council. That again plays to that narrative of national security with listed shares of Chinese stocks in New York and elsewhere abroad.
And those are the top business stories of the hour. I'm Diego Castro. Join us again at 2 p.m. We are One News. All sides, all the time.